Thanks, Chair. You were in the last time that I was in here. The committee was given recommendations in relation to doping tea or things that we'd like to see done. How many of them, or how well are you going at that? There was also, I think you talked about it yourselves, the situation where horses could be moved to somewhere else and you wouldn't know where they are in relation to traceability. Has all those things been resolved?
So the last time the committee made recommendations and observations around the anti-doping, the key recommendation at that time was to get an international expert of renown in to review our systems, and Dr. Craig Swan was brought in, carried out a very thorough review, and we published that review in April of last year. He made 18 recommendations. The vast majority of those have been implemented. There are still 2 or 3 recommendations waiting to be implemented. On the traceability, it's not in our gift to implement that on our own, but we continue to work with our colleagues in the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine, with Horse Racing Ireland, and with Weatherby's, who provide the technology and the studbook database. And we're all collaborating to do what we can to bring in a traceability system. We're certainly providing all of the support, the information and the input that we can to help drive on that project. But it's not us alone that will deliver on traceability.
And my understanding was that, or the example that the committee given at the time, that if I own a bullock or a heifer, at all times it's traceable where it is. My understanding was between yourselves, the department, HRI, that that was going to be implemented fairly fast. So you were saying that that's not done yet?
It's not done. Work is ongoing.
Yeah, but but how long is a piece of string? You know, how long ago was it since you were in before?
It's 2 years this month since the committee made that recommendation, published that report. I acknowledge that, but as I said, it's not in our gift. I can't tell you how long the piece of string is because we're not cutting the string. But we are...
But you're part of the string.
We're not cutting the string.
And would it not be in the interest of, say, everybody, including yourselves, that it would be pushed forward in the interest of transparency, especially with some of the, we'll say, accusations that came out that time that this committee was, you know, getting emails about? Would it not be in the interest of all the different partners to basically put that in fairly rapid? And the other question, I think for Dr. Hillier, I think before there was, at that commission meeting, there was questions raised about maybe horses getting certain boosters before the race. Was there anything ever done in resolving that?
So the advantages of a traceability system.
So I would welcome with open arms a traceability system that was as good as the cattle system in this country. The cattle system is fantastic. That is what
you have difficulty when you're trying to, say, get into yards at the moment that someone could say that the horse has gone somewhere else or whatever.
If somebody says to us now, with our authorisation under the Veterinary Medicinal Products Act, we are able to now go and find that horse. If somebody says to us that a horse we expect to be there isn't there, he's off down the road, we go down the road and we find that horse. The difficulty is when we attend a yard, we don't know what we're going to be expecting. We know we're going to find horses in training, but we could have another 40 horses, 50 horses, whatever it might be, that are not recorded, and we won't know what to expect. Now, we document them. When we go to that yard, we identify and document every single one of them. So we actually generate a lot of data, which we are really looking forward to putting into the traceability system. It is being built, as Mr. O'Loughlin says. Weatherby's are working really hard on this to develop it. Now, there's a traceability subgroup that meets. It's due to meet again tomorrow, I think it is. But it is a complex thing. I'm not making any excuses. It is a complex system because you're trying to pull in data from a number of different places, known points on a horse's life. In answer to a question of whether it will be useful, it'll be invaluable. It'll be invaluable because we need a nose to tail to go back to the lead of the string, we need to know where the horse is at any point along its life. And if it's not there, there needs to be a reason for it. One of the main reasons for that is that there has to be a person responsible for that horse at every stage of its life. In order to protect its health and welfare, we need to hold a person to account for its safety and its health and its welfare. So it's linking the horse, its movement, and the person responsible that's going to be the important bit. And that is complex. It is complex. And I know there's been some hoops.
Say, if I was an owner of a horse, out of all the horses in Ireland, say that you'd need to be tested, what percentage is tested every year?
So we if you take the number of roughly 35,000 runners, we'd be testing upwards of 5,500 per year.
So you have a 1 in 7 chance of getting nabbed.
Roughly speaking, and obviously there's peaks and troughs.
How is it you wouldn't be going heavier than that? Is there not a way at races to make sure you can test horses?
Well, the recommendations from Dr. Sawan is to increase our testing pressure, our testing numbers, and we're very keen to do that.
What's the recommendation too?
There isn't, to be honest, there isn't actually a number that we can subscribe.
No, but Dr. Swan.
He just says to increase. Just to increase, just doesn't give a specific number. Now we have put in recommendations to increase. We've asked for budget to increase next year, in 2 ways actually. One is to increase our actual number of stable inspections so that we have more boots on the ground, more eyes looking at what's going on, and then we can make informed decisions about what to test and the absolute sample numbers. And as Mr. O'Loughlin said earlier, we're trying to be sensible about this. It's easy to say, yes, give us more resource, but we're trying to put in a stepwise approach to that, whereby we put the personnel in place to be able to expand as and when the resource becomes available for the sampling.
And do you target horses that's winning, or what? Is that how it's done? Or?
Both. So we sample all winners in across the country, and we also then target non-winning horses as well.
Because like Ireland is a good, we have a good name at racing. It's a good industry, and that's why we need to keep it as good as possible in relation to keeping it with a good name. Like, it's great to see Irish horses going over to the UK and winning. And I'm no expert in them, but they sort of take over when they go over to the likes of Cheltenham. You know what I mean? And that's great to see. But that we need to make sure that it's kept 100% right. But and you never asked the question back of that guy, what does he mean by more? Does he mean 35,000 or 11,000?
Well, I've put in what I think is more, and I have submitted what I think is a reasonable increase to allow us to get the coverage we need. But it's always, and again, I've said it before, it's not just about the numbers that we take, it's how we use the information that comes from those samples. So, for example, one of Dr. Sawan's recommendations was to have an individual sampling history for every horse. So that's the tech development that Mr. O'Loughlin talked about. That's really important. That's as important as just increasing numbers. We need to do lots of different things together to make the most of the resource that we do have. Having the right people who are trained, know what they're doing, are enthusiastic about what they're doing, and want to do the job well is as important as increasing numbers. So I'm very focused on that in my team as well.
In the line of the governance part, is that all resolved now?
I would never say everything is all resolved. So when we were in here, even for the short meeting in July, I outlined that an issue had arisen which required us to conduct a review. So our board commissioned Mazars to carry out a review of our financial governance and our financial records. So what we've done is we've provided 6 years worth of financial records and transactions, banking transactions and so on, and we've provided relevant personnel records to Mazars. They've gone through hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands, of documents. We haven't yet got the report. It's only when we get the report back from them that they'll have set out their findings and whatever recommendations they're saying. It's only at that stage I'd be able to come in and say to you, we believe that this issue has been sorted out, as you put it. We're not.
What's your gut feeling?
I don't like to go on gut feelings when it comes to matters of financial governance. I certainly don't like to put gut feelings on the record. The review is underway. I believe it's almost complete.
Are you confident that everything will be all right?
I'm confident that regardless of what emerges through this review, we will be putting everything right. So I'm confident that once we have the report, once we have the recommendations, that we will either find that everything is already all right, and I have no reason to believe it isn't, and to the extent that there are shortcomings identified in our controls or our processes or our procedures, we'll be putting those right.